The screams echoed through the void of space as another world died. Commander HFY watched from the bridge of his flagship as the planet below turned from blue and green to black and red. The HFY swarm ships moved like hungry insects across the surface, their bioweapons eating through cities, mountains, and oceans with equal hunger. In 6 hours, what had once been home to 4 billion people would be nothing but a dead rock. This was the 37th world to fall this year. HFY's forearms trembled as he gripped the command chair. His people, the Veltar, had fought the HFY for over 200 years. They had lost every major battle. Everyone had lost every major battle. No species in the galaxy could stand against the nightmare that was the HFY hegemony. The enemy ships were not built. They were grown. Each vessel was a living creature the size of a city, with thick black skin that could heal from any wound. Their weapons were not machines, but organs that shot acid, poison, and worse things that turned people into screaming monsters. The ships could change and adapt to anything their enemies threw at them, but the worst part was not their ships or their weapons, it was their minds. The HFY shared one giant brain spread across millions of individual bodies. When one learned something, they all learned it instantly. When one felt pain, they all felt it and got angry together. They moved as one perfect army that never made mistakes and never forgot anything. They had been conquering the galaxy for 3,000 years. "Sir," said his communication officer, her voice shaking, "we're getting reports from the Rigel sector. The defense fleet there, they're gone, all of them." HFY closed his eyes. The Rigel defense fleet had been the largest military force the Galactic Council had ever assembled. 3,000 ships from 50 different worlds, armed with the best weapons science could build. They had lasted 4 days against the HFY swarm. "How many ships did we lose?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would be terrible. "All of them, sir. Every single ship." The bridge fell silent, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Through the main window, they could see more HFY bioships rising from the dying planet below. They moved like sharks that had tasted blood. "Sir," said another officer, "we're being contacted by the Council Emergency Assembly. They want all remaining fleet commanders to report to the capital immediately." HFY nodded slowly. He had been expecting this call. When you had tried everything and nothing worked, when you had thrown your best warriors and your finest weapons at an enemy and watched them all die, there was only one option left. The emergency session was held in the deepest part of the council building on Centris Prime. HFY had never been this far underground before. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to absorb light, making everything feel dark and cold. Ancient symbols were carved into the stone, from civilizations so old that no one remembered their names. The surviving fleet commanders sat around a table that had been carved from a single piece of black crystal. There were only 12 of them left. 12 commanders from what had once been an alliance of over 300 species. Council leader Mordun stood at the head of the table. He was old, even for his long-lived people, and the recent defeats had made him look ancient. His normally bright silver skin had turned dull gray, and his large eyes were filled with something HFY had never seen there before: fear. "My friends," Mordun began, his voice barely above a whisper, "we have reached the end. Our fleets are destroyed. Our worlds are falling one by one. The HFY will reach the core systems within 6 months." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots marked HFY-controlled space. The red had spread like a disease, covering more than half of all known systems. Blue dots showed the remaining free worlds, and there were so few of them now. "We have one option left," Mordun continued. "Something that was sealed away long ago in the deepest archives. Something our ancestors hoped would never be needed." He pressed a control, and the display changed. It showed a single star system at the very edge of the galaxy. The system had 4 small rocky planets, 1 gas giant, and dozens of moons and asteroids. But what made it special were the warning symbols that flashed around it in ancient text. "The Sol system," Mordun said. "Our oldest records call it the home of the Death World Guardians." HFY felt his blood turn cold. Every species in the galaxy knew the old stories about death worlds, planets so dangerous that they killed everything that tried to live on them. Most scientists believed they were just myths, scary stories told to children. "Sir," said Commander Villana from across the table, "surely you don't believe those old tales? Death worlds are just stories." Morden looked at her with sad eyes. 5 years ago I would have agreed with you. But 5 years ago we still had hope that we could defeat the HFY with normal weapons. Now look where we are. He pressed another control. The display showed sensor readings from the Sol system. The numbers made no sense. Energy signatures that were impossible. Gravitational fields that defied physics. And something else. Something that made Zexhi's skin crawl with fear. Long-range sensors have detected artificial structures throughout the system. Massive ones. And the energy readings. They're unlike anything we've ever seen. Whatever lives in that system has technology that makes our best science look like children playing with toys. "But sir," said another commander, "if they're so powerful, why haven't we heard from them? Why haven't they contacted us?" Morden was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with dread. "According to the archives, we have contacted them several times over the past few thousand years. Each time our scout ships were sent back to us with the same message: stay away, you are not ready." The room fell silent. The only sound was the distant hum of the building's life support systems. "And now?" asked Zexhi. "Now we have no choice," Morden replied. "I am authorizing the beacon protocol. We will send a signal to the Sol system. We will tell them that the galaxy is dying and we need their help. And if they refuse?" Morden looked around the table at the 12 remaining commanders of what had once been the greatest military force in galactic history. "Then we die," he said simply, "and the HFY inherit everything." 3 days later, the signal was sent, a quantum transmission that would cross the galaxy in mere hours, carrying a simple message to whoever lived in the forbidden system at Eno, the galaxy's edge. The message was short. "The darkness has returned. The galaxy burns. Please help us." Then they waited. High above the meeting chamber, the HFY swarm ships continued their relentless advance toward the core worlds, unaware that their prey had just awakened something that had been sleeping at the edge of space for a very long time. Captain Sarah Chen was drinking her morning coffee when the impossible happened. She stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the quiet dance of Earth's orbital stations through the main window. It was supposed to be a normal day. Routine, patrol exercises around Jupiter, weapon system tests, and crew training. Nothing exciting ever happened out here in the dark between the planets. Then Lieutenant Morrison's voice cut through the morning calm like a knife. "Captain, I'm reading multiple contacts at the edge of the system. Unknown vessels dropping out of FTL." Sarah nearly dropped her coffee cup. Humanity had been reaching for the stars for 300 years, sending probes and messages into the void, hoping to find someone else out there. But no one had ever come to find them. "How many ship?" she asked, moving quickly to the sensor station. 37 vessels, ma'am. And Captain, they're big. The largest one is nearly 2 kilometers long." Sarah felt her heart start beating faster. This was first contact. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about since they first looked up at the stars. But something was wrong. The sensor readings showed damage on every ship. Burn marks, hull breaches, and atmosphere leaking into space. "They look like they've been in a fight," Morrison said quietly. "Open a channel to Earth Command," Sarah ordered. "Priority Alpha. Tell them we have visitors." The response from Earth came back in minutes. Every military leader, scientist, and politician on the planet was suddenly very interested in what was happening at the edge of their solar system. Within an hour, orders came through. Make peaceful contact and find out what they wanted. The alien ships moved slowly into the inner system. They seemed to be struggling, their engines flickering and several ships limping badly. When they reached the orbit of Mars, they stopped and sent a message. It came on every frequency at once in dozens of different languages that the computers had never heard before. But somehow, impossibly, Earth's translation programs began to work. The message was simple. We are the remnant fleet of the Galactic Council. We come seeking the Guardians of Sol. Our galaxy burns and we have nowhere else to turn." Sarah stared at the message for a long moment. Guardians of Sol? Galactic Council? None of it made sense. Humanity had never left their own solar system. They had never even found life on other worlds. "Reply to them," she said finally. "Tell them we are humans from Earth. Ask them to explain who they think we are." The response came quickly. "You are the Deathworld Guardians, the ones who turned back the Dark Fleet in the old times. We need your help. The Kethvar have returned, and they cannot be stopped." Sarah looked around her bridge at the confused faces of her crew. None of this made any sense, but the alien ships were clearly desperate, and they were calling Earth a death world, which was just strange. "Permission to come aboard?" came the next message. "We have much to explain." 3 hours later, Sarah found herself in the strangest situation of her life. She stood in the main docking bay of the orbital station New Geneva, watching as alien beings stepped off their shuttle for the first time in human history. There were 5 of them, and they were nothing like the movies had imagined. The first was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. The second looked like a giant insect with silver wings. The third had no legs at all, just floating above the ground somehow. The fourth was covered in thick fur and walked on 6 legs. The last one looked almost human, except for the extra eyes and the fact that its skin seemed to change color. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's best expert on biology, led the human team. She had been studying life for 30 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. The blue-skinned alien stepped forward. When it spoke, a small device on its chest translated the words into English. "I am Ambassador Vexhai of the Veltar Republic. Thank you for meeting with us. We know this must be confusing." Sarah stepped forward. She had been chosen to speak for humanity, and the weight of that responsibility felt heavy on her shoulders. "Ambassador, we're honored to meet you, but we have to tell you there's been some mistake. We're not guardians of anything. We've never left our own solar system. We've never even met aliens before today." The ambassador's large black eyes grew wider. He turned to the other aliens, and they made sounds that the translator couldn't handle. They seemed upset or maybe scared. "But the records," Vexhai said finally, "the energy signatures from your system, the gravitational distortions, the quantum echoes of your neural patterns found on battlefields across the galaxy." "I'm sorry," Dr. Vasquez said gently, "but none of that means anything to us." "What are these quantum echoes?" The insect-like alien made a clicking sound and stepped forward. "I am science leader Krikstal. The quantum echoes are brain patterns, human brain patterns. We have found them on destroyed Kethvar ships on ancient battlefields in places where something fought and won, against impossible odds. Always the same pattern. Always from this system." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "That's impossible. We've never been to other star systems." "The patterns are dated," Krikstal continued. "They are from your future, from battles that have not yet been fought." The room fell silent. The implications of what the alien was saying were too big to understand. Dr. Vasquez was the first to speak. "You said the galaxy burns. Tell us what's happening out there." Ambassador Vexhai activated a device that projected a hologram into the air. It showed the galaxy with red spreading across it like blood. "The Kethvar hegemony," he said. "They have been conquering worlds for 3,000 years. They are perfect killers. Their ships are alive, able to heal and adapt to any weapon. Their minds are connected so they never make mistakes. They learn from every battle and become stronger." The hologram showed battles. Massive fleets fighting against strange, organic-looking ships. Every battle ended the same way. The organic ships won. "We have tried everything," Vexhai continued. "Every weapon, every strategy, every alliance. Nothing works. They adapt to everything we throw at them. They are unstoppable." "How many worlds have they taken?" Sarah asked. 47,000 inhabited systems. Trillions of people dead or enslaved. The surviving species have formed the Council, but we are losing. In 6 months they will reach the core worlds. After that, He made a gesture that needed no translation. The floating alien spoke for the first time, its voice like wind through leaves. The archives speak of only one force that ever defeated them. The Deathworld Guardians of Sol. You. Sarah looked around at her team. These aliens had traveled across the galaxy looking for humanity to save them. But humanity couldn't even save themselves from their own problems. War, hunger, disease still plagued Earth despite all their technology. "We want to help," she said finally. "But we don't understand how we can. Our most powerful weapons are nuclear missiles. Our fastest ships take months to reach the outer planets. How could we possibly fight something that has conquered half the galaxy?" Ambassador Vexhai looked at her with something that might have been hope. "We do not know," he said honestly. "But our deepest archives contain one more piece of information about the Guardians of Sol. They never used superior weapons or numbers to win. They used something else. Something that made the Kethvar afraid for the first time in their history." "What?" Dr. Vasquez asked. "The archives do not say. They only record that after the Dark Fleet encountered the Guardians, they retreated to the far edge of the galaxy and did not emerge again for 1,000 years. Sarah felt the weight of the galaxy settling on her shoulders. Somewhere out there, an unstoppable enemy was destroying everything in its path, and somehow, these people believed that humanity held the key to stopping them. She looked out through the station window at Earth, blue and green and peaceful in the distance. Soon, she realized, their quiet little world was going to become the center of a war that would decide the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. "We need to contact our leaders," she said. "All of them. This is bigger than any one nation or organization." As the aliens were escorted to temporary quarters, Sarah stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an ancient enemy was coming, and humanity was about to discover whether they really were the Guardians the galaxy needed, or if they were just going to be the next species to die. The emergency meeting in Geneva lasted 18 hours. President Martinez rubbed her tired eyes as she looked around the table at the leaders of every major nation on Earth. The room was filled with the most powerful people on the planet, and they all looked as confused and scared as she felt. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," said Prime Minister Chen from across the table. "Aliens have arrived at our solar system. They claim we are some kind of galactic guardians, and they want us to help them fight a war against something called the Kethvar." Dr. Vasquez nodded from her seat at the presentation screen. "That's correct, sir. The Galactic Council represents over 300 different species. The Kethvar have already destroyed about half of them. And they think we can help because of quantum echoes from our future?" President Okafor asked. "That doesn't make any sense." "No, sir, it doesn't," Dr. Vasquez agreed. "But the evidence is clear. Something with human brain patterns has been fighting the Kethvar across the galaxy. The aliens have found these patterns on battlefields, on destroyed enemy ships, in places where someone won against impossible odds." General Webb leaned forward in his chair. He was the head of the new Terran Defense Initiative, hastily formed when the aliens arrived. "Doctor, what exactly are these Kethvar? What makes them so dangerous?" Dr. Vasquez activated the holographic display. The image showed one of the alien bioships, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a whale and a spider. According to the Council data, the Kethvar ships are living creatures. They can heal from damage, adapt to new weapons, and change their biology to counter whatever is used against them. But the real problem is their hive mind. She changed the image to show thousands of the creatures moving in perfect formation. Every Kethvar is connected to every other Kethvar. They share thoughts, memories, and experiences instantly across their entire species. When one learns something, they all learn it. When one feels pain, they all feel it and react together. They fight as one perfect organism with millions of bodies. The room fell silent. Finally, Chancellor Hoffman spoke up. "How do you fight something like that? How do you surprise an enemy that knows everything instantly?" "You don't, General," Webb said quietly. "At least not with normal tactics, but maybe that's the point." Everyone turned to look at him. "Think about it," Webb continued. "The aliens have been fighting this war for 3,000 years using normal military tactics. Big fleets, advanced weapons, coordinated strategies, and they've lost every single battle. Maybe the reason they think we can help is because we'll do something different. President Martinez felt a chill. Different how? I don't know yet. But I've been studying the tactical data the Council gave us. Every species that fought the Kethvar used the same basic approach. Build bigger ships, make better weapons, coordinate their fleets. It never worked because the Kethvar just adapted to everything. Dr. Vasquez brought up another display. General Webb is right. Look at this battle analysis from the Rigel sector. The Council fleet had 3,000 ships with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They fought for 4 days using textbook military strategy. The Kethvar adapted to every weapon and tactic by the 2nd day. By the 4th day, they were winning easily. So what do we do? Asked Prime Minister Singh. Our most advanced spaceships are barely capable of reaching Mars in reasonable time. Our weapons are primitive compared to what the Council has. If their technology couldn't stop the Kethvar, how can ours? That's when the alarms started ringing. Every screen in the room flashed red as emergency signals poured in from observatories and military installations around the world. General Webb's aide rushed into the room with a tablet full of urgent messages. "Sir," the aide said, breathing hard, "we have contacts at the edge of the solar system. Unknown vessels dropping out of hyperspace." The blood drained from President Martinez's face. "How many?" General Webb was already accessing the military networks on his secure tablet. His face went pale as he read the reports. 18 contacts, large vessels much bigger than the Council ships. They're moving fast toward the inner system. He looked up at the assembled leaders. The energy signatures match what the Council showed us about Kethvar bioships. Dr. Vasquez stood up quickly. "That's impossible. The Council said it would take months for the Kethvar to reach us." "Unless they were already coming," General Webb said grimly. "Think about it. The Council sent out that quantum message 3 days ago, calling for help. If the Kethvar intercepted it, the implications hit everyone at once. The Kethvar hadn't come looking for Earth specifically. They had followed the Council's desperate message, and now they knew exactly where to find both the last free civilizations and the mysterious guardians of Sol. "How long until they reach Earth?" President Martinez asked. General Webb checked his tablet again. "At their current speed, about 16 hours. But they'll encounter our outer system defenses first." "What outer system defenses?" Chancellor Hoffman asked. "We don't have any military installations beyond Mars." General Webb looked around the room with a strange expression. "Actually, we do. We've had them for 30 years. I thought everyone here knew about the asteroid defense grid." The room erupted in confused voices. President Martinez held up her hand for silence. "General, what are you talking about?" "The Black Budget project from the 1990s, Webb explained. "When SETI first detected those strange radio signals from deep space, the major powers quietly agreed to prepare for the worst. We've been hollowing out asteroids and turning them into weapons platforms for decades. The project was so classified that only the military commanders knew about it." Dr. Vasquez stared at him. "You mean we actually have defenses against alien invasion?" "Not against invasion," Webb corrected. "Against anything coming from outside the solar system. The grid consists of over 4,000 automated weapon platforms scattered throughout the asteroid belt. Each one is equipped with railguns, nuclear missiles, and kinetic projectiles." Prime Minister Chen leaned forward. "Will it be enough to stop the Kethvar?" General Webb was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. The weapons were designed based on what we thought alien ships might look like. But according to the Council data, the Kethvar bioships can adapt to any weapon after they encounter it once. So we get one shot," President Martinez said. "One shot," Webb agreed. "If we don't stop them in the asteroid belt, they'll adapt to our weapons and nothing we have will work twice." The first Kethvar scout ship reached the asteroid belt 6 hours later. General Webb watched from the command center deep inside Cheyenne Mountain as the alien vessel moved through the scattered rocks. It was massive, easily the size of a city, with a hull that seemed to pulse and shift like living skin. Bioluminescent patterns ran along its surface, creating light shows that hurt to look at directly. The ship was scanning everything, its alien senses probing each asteroid for signs of life or technology. It moved with the confidence of a predator that had never encountered anything it couldn't handle. Then it found Platform Alpha 7. The asteroid looked like all the others from the outside, just a big chunk of rock tumbling through space. But inside, computers that had been waiting for 30 years suddenly came online. Weapons that had been built in secret turned toward the alien ship. Targeting systems locked onto the massive bio-vessel. "Fire," General Webb whispered. Platform Alpha 7 opened up with everything it had. Railgun slugs moving at significant portions of light speed hammered into the Kethvar ship's hull. Nuclear missiles detonated against its bioarmor. Kinetic projectiles the size of school buses punched through its outer skin. The bioship died in seconds, its hull torn apart by the massive volume of firepower. But as it died, Webb knew it was sending everything it had learned back to the main fleet. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're detecting quantum transmissions from the destroyed vessel. It's sending data to the other ships." Webb nodded, grimly. They had gotten their one shot. Now the Kethvar would adapt to every weapon humanity had used. The next ships that entered the asteroid belt would be ready for anything the defense grid could throw at them. But maybe, Webb thought, as he watched the wreckage of the alien ship drift through space, that was exactly what humanity needed. Maybe the point wasn't to win with superior firepower. Maybe the point was to show the Kethvar that the species they were hunting wasn't going to go down easily. The real war was about to begin. "Contact all platforms," Webb ordered. "Prepare for full defensive action, and get me a line to the President. She needs to know that Earth is officially at war." As the remaining Kethvar ships began their approach to the inner solar system, their biohulls already changing to counter-human weapons, General Webb couldn't help but wonder if humanity really was the guardian species the galaxy needed, or if they were just the next civilization about to learn why the Kethvar had never been defeated. The main Kethvar fleet arrived like a plague of locusts. Admiral Lisa Park watched from the command center on Ceres Station as 17 massive bioships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Each one was different from the others, their living hulls already showing the adaptations they had made based on what the scout ship had learned before it died. The ships looked like nightmares. Their black hulls rippled with muscle and bone. Weapon ports opened and closed like mouths, breathing. Glowing veins ran along their sides, pulsing with alien blood. They moved through space not like machines, but like hunting animals that had caught the scent of prey. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Commander Torres from the sensor station, "I'm reading massive energy buildups across their fleet. They're charging. Weapons we've never seen before." Park nodded grimly. The Kethvar had learned from their scout's death. Their bioships had grown thicker armor, developed new sensors, and evolved weapons specifically designed to counter human technology. The asteroid defense grid had killed one ship, but now the enemy was ready for everything humanity could throw at them. "All platforms, prepare for combat," Park ordered. "Remember, these ships can adapt to whatever we use against them. Make every shot count, because we might not get a second chance with the same weapon." The battle began when the Kethvar ships reached the outer edge of the asteroid belt. This time they didn't send scouts ahead. The entire fleet moved together, their biohulls already shifted and changed to resist railgun fire and nuclear explosions. Platform Beta 1 opened fire first. Its railgun slugs struck the lead Kethvar ship and bounced off harmlessly. The bioship's hull had grown a layer of dense bone that scattered the kinetic impact. Nuclear missiles detonated against energy shields that hadn't existed on the scout ship, but the humans had learned something too. "Switch to Protocol 7, Park ordered. "All platforms, randomize your weapon types. Don't let them adapt to any single system." The asteroid belt erupted in chaos. Some platforms fired railguns while others launched kinetic missiles. Some used focused laser arrays while others deployed exotic particle beams that Earth scientists had developed in secret. Each platform used different weapons, different tactics, different timing. The Kethvar ships began to take damage. Their hulls could adapt to specific threats, but they couldn't change fast enough to counter the constantly shifting attack patterns. One bioship lost its main weapon arm to a concentrated laser barrage. Another spun out of control when kinetic slugs punched through its steering organs. But the enemy was learning. "Admiral," Torres called out, "the lead ships are changing again. They're growing new defenses faster than before." Park could see it happening on the tactical display. The HFY bioships were evolving in real time, their hulls shifting and changing as they adapted to each new weapon type. Worse, they were sharing their adaptations instantly through their hive mind. What one ship learned, they all learned within minutes. "Time to try something they've never seen before," Park muttered. She opened a channel to Platform Gamma 12. "Initiate Project Hail Mary." Platform Gamma 12 had been built differently from all the others. Instead of weapons, it contained a massive gravity generator that Earth scientists had reverse-engineered from theoretical alien technology found in the Council databases. No one was sure it would work, but desperate times called for desperate measures. The gravity weapon fired. Space itself seemed to bend around the nearest HFY ship. The massive biovessel suddenly found itself being crushed by forces that twisted its hull like a pretzel. Its living armor, so effective against physical weapons, could do nothing against gravity itself. The ship imploded, collapsing into a sphere, the size of a basketball before exploding in a flash of released energy. For a moment, the entire HFY fleet stopped moving. Through their hive mind, they had all felt their sister ship die in a way that should have been impossible. Fear rippled through their shared consciousness for the first time in centuries, but only for a moment. The remaining ships spread out and began moving in unpredictable patterns. Their hulls started growing new organs, new defenses that Park couldn't understand. Whatever they were doing, it was happening faster than anything the Council had reported. "They're adapting to the gravity weapon," Torres reported. "I'm reading massive structural changes across their fleet." The second gravity shot failed completely. The targeted bioship simply absorbed the gravitational distortion, its hull having grown specialized organs that redirected the force harmlessly around it. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "I'm getting reports from the outer platforms. We've lost contact with Alpha 7 through Alpha 15. Park felt her heart sink. The HFY ships had stopped playing defense. They were fighting back with weapons that turned matter into energy, beams that converted solid metal into gas, and biological agents that infected the platform computers and turned them against their human operators. "All remaining platforms, fall back to defensive positions around Mars," she ordered. "We need to buy time for the inner system defenses to come online." But even as she gave the order, Park knew they were losing. The asteroid belt had been humanity's best chance to stop the invasion. They had thrown everything they had at the HFY fleet and managed to destroy only 3 ships out of 17. The surviving bioships continued their advance toward Mars, their hulls now immune to every weapon humanity had used against them. They moved with the confidence of predators that had learned all their prey's tricks. That's when the reinforcements arrived. "Admiral," Torres said, his voice filled with confusion. "I'm reading new contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Behind, the HFY fleet." Park turned to the main display and felt her breath catch. Dozens of ships were appearing in space, but these weren't the sleek vessels of the Galactic Council or the organic nightmares of the HFY. These ships looked human, but wrong somehow. They were built from materials that didn't appear in any Earth database, powered by engines that produced energy signatures unlike anything in human technology. "Who are they?" she asked. "Unknown, Admiral. But they're broadcasting human identification codes, very old ones." The lead ship opened a communication channel. The voice that came through spoke English, but with an accent that sounded like it came from another century. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Deep Range Fleet. We've been waiting a long time for this day." Park stared at the screen. "Captain, this is Admiral Park. I don't understand. Who are you? Where did you come from?" "We're humans, Admiral, but we've been living in the dark between the stars for over 50 years, preparing for this moment. We're the descendants of the colonists who left Earth in secret when the first alien signals were detected." The new ships moved with purpose toward the HFY fleet. Their weapons were unlike anything Park had ever seen. Instead of trying to destroy the bioships, they seemed to be doing something else entirely. "Captain Vasquez, what are your weapons doing to the enemy ships?" "We're not trying to kill them, Admiral. We're trying to catch them. Park watched in amazement as the strange human ships deployed massive nets made of some kind of energy. The nets wrapped around the HFY bioships, not damaging them but somehow preventing them from moving or adapting. How is that possible? We've been studying HFY biology for decades, Admiral. We know how their adaptation works. The key isn't to fight their strength. It's to use their strength against them. One by one, the trapped HFY ships found themselves unable to break free from the energy nets. Their biohulls tried to adapt, growing new organs and abilities, but the net seemed to change with them, always staying one step ahead. Admiral Park, Captain Vasquez continued, we need you to do something. Can your remaining platforms target the trapped ships with non-lethal weapons? We want to disable them, not destroy them. Why? Because, Admiral, the best way to defeat an enemy that learns from every battle is to become a better student than they are. And we've been very good students. Park looked around her command center at the faces of her crew. They had been losing badly just minutes ago. Now somehow the tide of battle was turning in ways she didn't understand. All platforms, she ordered, switch to electromagnetic pulse weapons, target the netted ships, disable their systems but don't destroy them. As Earth's weapons began to shut down the trapped HFY vessels, Park realized that humanity's role as the galaxy's guardians might not be about having the best weapons or the strongest ships. It might be about being the species that refused to fight the same war everyone else had been losing for 3,000 years. The main battle was far from over, but for the first time since the aliens arrived, Admiral Park began to believe that maybe, just maybe, humanity really could save the galaxy, even if they had to do it in the strangest way possible. The final battle took place in the shadow of Mars. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the captured HFY bioship that had been renamed Retribution. The living vessel felt wrong under her feet. The floors pulsed with alien heartbeats. The walls breathed. The ceiling showed veins carrying glowing fluid instead of electrical wires. But it was still her ship now. Captain, said her navigator, Lieutenant Hayes, the remaining HFY dreadnought is moving toward Earth. It's not responding to our surrender signals. Sarah looked at the main screen. The last enemy ship was massive, 3 kilometers long, and armed with weapons that could crack planets. It was the flagship of the invasion fleet, and it was not going to give up easily. How many bioships do we have under human control now? She asked. 14 captured vessels, all with mixed human-alien crews, Hayes replied, plus the deep-range fleet and what's left of the asteroid defense grid. Sarah nodded. The battle had been unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of trying to destroy the HFY ships, humanity had captured them. Dr. Vasquez and the deep-range scientists had figured out how to interface human technology with HFY biology, creating hybrid vessels that neither species could have built alone. Open a channel to Dr. Vasquez, Sarah ordered. We need to know if her theory about the hive mind is ready to test. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on the screen from her laboratory ship. She looked tired but excited. Behind her, banks of computers showed streams of data that looked more like DNA sequences than normal readouts. Captain Chen, I think we've found it. The key to everything. Tell me. The HFY hive mind is their greatest strength, but it's also their biggest weakness. They share everything instantly across their entire species. Thoughts, memories, pain, fear, everything. Sarah felt a chill. You're not suggesting we torture them? No, Captain. Something much more effective. We're going to teach them. Sarah frowned. Teach them what? How to be afraid, how to doubt, how to question their own superiority. Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. The HFY have conquered the galaxy because they've never met anything they couldn't adapt to or overcome. They don't know what it feels like to lose to something smaller and weaker than themselves. But we've been losing to them all day. Have we? Dr. Vasquez asked. Look around you, Captain. You're standing on a HFY bioship that now follows human commands. We've captured most of their fleet. We've turned their own weapons against them. We haven't been losing, Captain. We've been learning. The truth hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't been fighting to win the battle. They had been fighting to understand their enemy. Every captured ship, every disabled weapon, Every adaptation the Kethvar made had taught the humans something new. The final dreadnought, Sarah said. You want to use it to send a message to their entire species. Exactly. The hive mind means that whatever one Kethvar experiences, they all experience. If we can make that dreadnought feel something the species has never felt before, it will spread to every Kethvar in the galaxy. What kind of something? Dr. Vasquez's smile grew wider. Respect for their prey. The plan was insane, but it was the kind of insane that might actually work. Sarah took the Retribution and 12 other captured bioships directly toward the enemy dreadnought. They moved slowly, broadcasting surrender signals and making no aggressive moves. To the Kethvar flagship, it looked like the humans were giving up. The dreadnought waited for them, its massive weapon arms tracking their approach. Sarah could feel the alien ship's hunger through the bioneural connections. It wanted to finish the battle, to add Earth to its list of conquered worlds. All ships, execute Protocol Omega, Sarah ordered. At the same moment, every captured Kethvar vessel suddenly turned its weapons on the dreadnought, but they weren't firing normal weapons. They were using something that Dr. Vasquez had built into the bioship's own nervous systems, memories. Human memories. The dreadnought was suddenly flooded with experiences from every human who had ever lived. The memory of a mother holding her newborn baby. The feeling of an old man watching a sunset. The joy of children playing in the rain. The determination of scientists working to cure diseases. The courage of firefighters running into burning buildings. But more than that, it felt human emotions. Love, hope, sacrifice. The willingness to die for something bigger than yourself. The refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. For the first time in its existence, the Kethvar dreadnought felt what it was like to be the prey instead of the predator. It felt what its victims had experienced as their worlds burned. It understood the desperation of the Galactic Council, fleeing across the galaxy looking for help. And through the hive mind, every Kethvar everywhere felt it too. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the galaxy, Kethvar fleets suddenly stopped their attacks. Bioships that had been in the middle of conquering worlds simply shut down their weapons and waited. The entire species was experiencing something they had no defenses against: empathy. Captain, Hayes reported, the dreadnought is powering down its weapons. It's broadcasting a surrender signal. Sarah watched as the massive ship slowly turned toward Earth, but not in attack, in submission. Through the bioneural link, she could feel the confusion and fear rippling through the Kethvar consciousness. They had met something they couldn't adapt to or overcome. The idea that their prey might be just as intelligent, just as worthy of life as they were. Dr. Vasquez was right, Sarah whispered. They never learned to lose because they never respected what they were fighting. 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council in their rebuilt chambers on Centris Prime. The hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, including the Kethvar themselves. The former conquerors sat quietly in their section, their chitinous forms somehow smaller than they had seemed during the war. They were no longer the unstoppable force that had terrorized the galaxy. They were just another species trying to find their place in a universe they had never really understood. The war is over, Sarah announced to the assembly. But the real work is just beginning. The Kethvar have agreed to join the Council as a protectorate species. They will help rebuild the worlds they destroyed and share their biotechnology for peaceful purposes. Ambassador Vexhai, who had started this whole journey by coming to Earth, raised one of his 4 arms. Ambassador Chen, how did humanity know this would work? How did you know that empathy could defeat a force that had conquered half the galaxy? Sarah smiled. Because we've been on both sides, Ambassador. Humans have been both predator and prey throughout our history. We've conquered and been conquered. We've learned that the strongest species isn't the one with the best weapons or the toughest armor. It's the one that can understand its enemies well enough to find another way to end the fight. She gestured to the mixed crews of humans and aliens working together throughout the chamber. The galaxy called us the Death World Guardians. But we prefer a different title. We're teachers, and our first lesson is this: no one is so different that they can't learn to understand each other. The Kethvar representative, a smaller bioform that served as their new ambassador, stood slowly. The humans have shown us something we never knew existed: the possibility that strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. We would like to learn more. Sarah nodded. That's what the Universal Defense Academy is for. Every species in the galaxy is welcome to send students. We'll teach them the most dangerous lesson humanity has to offer, which is how to refuse to give up, how to find hope when everything seems hopeless, how to look at an impossible problem and decide that impossible just means no one has found the right answer yet. As the council session ended and representatives began to mingle, Sarah looked out through the chamber's great windows at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were already exploring the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as the bridge between species that had never learned to trust each other. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and for the first time in millennia, every species in it had a chance to see those wonders together, as students rather than as predators and prey. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as the strongest or the smartest, but as the species that refused to accept that understanding was impossible. And that, Sarah thought as she watched human and alien children playing together in the station's observation deck, might be the most human thing of all.